Hello, YouTube modeling community. It's Rusty Rotor with What's on My Bench. Update on the villain, Cecilia. I've not worked on it this week. Today being Friday, I am going to get the final coats of paint put on the body. So not much to look at there. But everything's kind of in order. And we're waiting on some 3D printed parts to be made to finish sections up to where we're going to walk away from it for a while. And when I say walk away from it, it's just we'll tinker with it and do a few things here and there as needed. That being said, we have been elbows deep in Shorty. Project Shorty, if you remember. Hold on a second, guys. I had to spray my nose. These allergies suck. Anyways, for any of you that don't know, it's just tuning in. This is a replica build for Justin, JL250 Ford on Instagram. That's his handle. It is a beautiful truck with an awesome background story to the truck. Is very sentimental, especially to Justin, and should be. It's a beautiful truck that was created and built by his father. His father's no longer with us, so the truck holds even more sentimental value. And anybody out there that is big into four-wheel drives will completely get it and understand it. Now, everybody has their niche, what they like, and, they don't like four-wheel drive. They like slam to the ground. Well, I'm the one building it. So, I love the old-school four-wheel drive trucks. I was a kid just like everybody else and grew up in the eras of Bigfoot and Gravedigger and all those. And, those were all inspirations to these guys that built the biggest, baddest four-wheel drive truck they could build and be able to drive it on the street. And, I'm sure this truck doesn't see many trails or, mud bogs or anything like that. And I completely understand why. Not that it couldn't handle anything. It's just, it's just a beautiful truck. He takes it to shows. He drives it. He enjoys the truck, and that's what it was built and designed to do. I've been communicating with Justin back and forth way before we started this build. He sent us a slew of pictures. It's just, to me, that's great inspiration. It's great reference material, as I've talked about before. If you're going to do a build of this magnitude, to get every bit of reference material you can get. And that's not just from the customer or the vehicle owner. Knowing what that year, model, whatever, would have, would not have, what does the vehicle have, getting a game plan on how you want it to look. I was kind of up on this one. This is for me, but I'm hoping, with hearing the background story and everything else about this, that Justin will want a copy of this for himself. And there would be some subtle changes between his and mine. One, his has drum brakes. Mine, it's power drum brakes, or power assisted. This one, we have four-wheel disc brakes. It's just, they're Z-Force wheels and they're keyed, so it helps in the platform. So if he does, I'll have Ryan design 4 drum brakes that are keyed. That way it'll line right back up for when I do build Justin's, if I do build. I'm hoping I do. It's hard to explain, guys. It is emotional when you find a vehicle that is a work of art itself, and then you realize there's a backstory to it and how sentimental it is and emotional it is. Everybody has and remembers that car that their father owned that you used to take a ride in, or their truck or hot rod, whatever it may be. It could have just been a jalopy like mine. My very first car was a 74, I think it was a 74 Ford Pinto station wagon. White with the blue pleather interior. You know what? But I was excited because it was a car. It was my freedom. I could drive to work. I could drive to school. I could go out on the weekends. I got made fun of because it was a Pinto. And the Pinto was short-lived. I went immediately from that up to a 70 Chevelle. And I never looked back. And I've had my fair share of four-wheel drive trucks. I have one now. I'm a Ford guy. So I have another, love and appreciation for this build. The downfall to one of these types of builds, I guess I could say, is you're constantly touching up. Because you'll get an area done, and then you got to fiddle with another area. And you'll get little scuffs and scrapes and, this, that, and the other. You got to constantly go back and touch up until you're completely done. And that has a tendency to not be like 100% spotless clean aspect, because you certainly can't go back and start airbrushing and get that nice smooth finish. So it's touched up with a real fine brush, and I have a good method of doing it, and it turns out really nice. So I always roll with that. But not to be knocking the truck, but it is pretty basic. It has a beautiful paint job, so you can't take that away. It has a very nice interior. He's running I think it's either a 360 or 390 V8, and it has headers. I'm sure it's got a 4-barrel. But I don't think the engine's built or anything like that, so it's not a super hot rod 4-wheel drive truck. Nice cruiser, and it's got the balls that it needs if it got off road to handle itself. Big monster tires on it, and a lifted suspension. I believe it's a Skyjacker suspension kit that's on the truck. I don't know the lift, how many inches and all that, but I can get that information. So we knew we were going to have to use 2 kits. And not that I had to. It does help make things a little easier through the process. I could scratch build the leaf springs. I could do all that. It's just, how can I get through it, and I want to keep it basic. We're not going to extreme. Well, you find out along the way that there's certain things that aren't in the kit. It's not represented in the detail that the real vehicle has. So this is why I find myself, I'm going back and having to do this, do that, and then touch up as I go, which is not a big deal, particularly on this one, because we're just working with a chassis. Everything's open. I got access to everything I need to get to. So I went ahead and decided, instead of course, me, I go down that rabbit hole. We need to add detail to this build that it normally wouldn't have. Sorry guys, I'm fiddling with something here too. Give me just a second. Something came loose. I'm talking to you as glue is drying. So this details things that, I could probably have them made, but by the time I do all the measuring and then getting somebody to make it, and it's got the extra time. I mean, I've got Ernest booked up basically, which I hate doing. He's a super nice guy. He's a great friend, and I appreciate everything he does. But I couldn't. He is making some parts for this project, as well as Cecilia. We've seen on the Dodge Challenger the parts that he's made and designed for that one. We're done with that one as far as stuff we need made. So he can rest with that. These little parts are very fiddly, guys. I'm just trying to get it just right to where it'll dry. All right, that looks good. So, how do we put that detail into something of this magnitude? It's scratch building. We've talked about it. We've covered it. There's guys that are a million times better than me, and they blow my mind how they do it. But it also inspires me to attempt it. And it's really not bad, guys. It's keeping your principles in check to scale as close as possible. Lots of reference materials, so you're making it look pretty accurate, and then the execution of the whole thing. We have been able to execute this, like I said, to a huge degree, because the kit really it gives the okay to go ahead and do it. You know what I'm saying? It's not, oh, I gotta modify this to accept what I'm doing because the real car has this. This kit has all the plumbing, so to speak. It just takes a little measuring, a little calculation, a little figuring. Well, I gotta say a whole lot of measuring, and a lot of reference material to duplicate or replicate, in this case, what it has. So, the rabbit hole again. We decided, well, we got a wide open chassis. There's nothing blocking us. I mean, if I get ahead of myself, then, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to go in there and put this detail in. So, let's halt. We've got the cab where we want it, and we'll go over that here in a second. So let's pay some attention to detail on the chassis. We do have a roller, as they say in our hobby. That's where it's sitting on all four tires. And by all accounts, it's really done. It's ready to accept the engine, the drive shaft. The other two drive shafts are already in. Keep in mind, show truck. We're not going to weather underneath. He keeps it really clean. And I'm sure it probably takes a couple days if he gets it really dirty to get everything clean and polished back up and shining. Is it showroom condition? I don't think it is. There's spots of rust here and there, not on the body, but on the normal things that would rust, no matter how nice the car is. And it's really just it's surface. It's nothing major. It's just nuts and bolts that when they get wet and the paint wears off a little bit, they'll start to rust a little bit, as pretty much what they're designed to do. But it doesn't take anything away from the beauty of the truck. So let's run brake lines. That's my thought. I've done it a million times. I'm pretty good at it. I like to think. I've got the principle of what's rubber lines, what's hard lines, which side of the vehicle they run down, whether it being Chevy, Ford, Chrysler. And we just got lucky enough that Justin had a lot of great pictures showing this detail, so I could really amp it up by mirroring what he has. Now, is this 100% identical replica? No. They're, like I said, the brakes are different, or the brake components as far as being rotors or drums. That's pretty much it. The tires, his tires are a little more ballooned out on the sidewalls. In Ryan's design, they are ballooned out. They're just they're a little flatter than what they should be, but at the end of the day, if I set this when it's all done next to the real truck, it would look like an absolute identical, just in a teeny tiny version. His suspension and everything underneath the truck is painted like a satin black, so nothing's flat. So we want to avoid flat colors. Maybe bits and bobs here and there, just maybe a component. It's got a duller finish, whatever, but we're not even to that point yet. So we started with the diff. We got the hard line ram. We put a valve, like a proportioning valve, in a brake block on the diff, and we put it as close to where his is as possible. Now remember, you are limited by design of a model to where they're not exact. They're a very, very close representation of the real car. And we're limited by scale. So my brake blocks aren't 100% accurate, but they are very representative of what it is. So you look at it, you know what it is, type thing. Well, that's not right. It doesn't matter. You can't, for the size of the part it would be so microscopic that it would look good because it would be 3D printed, but it'd be so tiny I couldn't work with it. I couldn't drill holes in it like I need to run the hard lines into and the soft line out of. So we work with what we have there. So we'll take a look at that first. This is the rear suspension. Now you can see the hard lines round up and then to the calipers. In his case, it would be drums. We put our block. It's on the driver's side, and it's got a soft line that runs up to the frame to another block that transitions into a hard line. Okay, I hope you guys can see that. There we go. That block is already painted. And then we got a steel brake line that runs up all the way to the front to the proportioning valve, which is a little brass colored valve there. From that, we go up and we pigtail on both. It goes up to the master cylinder. From that, it comes down and around the front of the cradle and over to the other side. And we've got a block up here. You can see a little brass block. And then we got a soft line that runs out of there. Now, these soft lines on his trucker, I think they're steel braided. So we still got to paint these lines that go down. They are movable. They move around. It's a soft rubber hose. But we'll paint those before we marry everything together. That way we're not rubbing and touching, having to keep constantly touching them up. Same way with the back lines. This soft line here is a braided line, which in most kits they are a braided line. They're a rubber core braided line, high pressure type deal. And then the driver's side, like I showed you there, and then the passenger side is on the opposite side of the cradle. One's on the back side, one's on the front side. And that's just how they run the hard lines. So we bent and represented it as close as we could to the real truck. So everything's bent and ran. All brake lines are connected. The only connection we got to make now is to the master cylinder, which is, it's right here. I'll show you that real quick. We can put the little hole down on the top of the cover. It's not going to show up that way. There we go. I got to straighten that out a little bit. We got to finish painting that. We got our holes drilled. And it's all black. The tank and the cap are like a flat black. This is like a semi-gloss. So we'll get that painted right. And then this will stay a steel color. We may even paint that black too. I think it is on the real truck. And then we got our holes drilled right there. You see multiple holes, but I filled some of them in with the UV cure glue. I just didn't have the right placement. And then I found a picture showing his truck that where the brake lines were, so I put new holes. So once it's all painted, you won't see all those. So keep in mind that. What did we do with it? We've lost our glue. Oh no. Whatever will become of us. As organized as you can be, you're still not. There's no way. I'm lost for words. How did I lose a tube of glue? I've got the light. There's that glue. Zap it. We're not going to waste time trying to find it. Zap it. You just take a little bit on a toothpick, put it in the hole, hit it, it cures instantly. Add a little more, create a little dome, and then you come back and sand it down. It's very sandable, and then you can't tell. That's why it's great for little imperfections in the bodies too. You can just use a little toothpick and spread it over the little spot, cure it, let it set for 5-10 minutes, come back and sand it down, and you're golden. It doesn't shrink, it doesn't crack, it's a great body filler. Not to mention the purposes of small tiny parts that you would have to wait, let it dry. You can hit it with the light and it's bonded instantly. So, back to our topic at hand. What other detail can we add to the back of the truck that the real truck has? Well, the lift kit, you can see there's 2 white components up there that are angled. That's part of the block underneath the leaf spring, between the leaf spring and the differential. So we added those, so we got to get those painted. When the glue dries, we will get those painted. And then the shackles. So what I do is I measure, and I make sure I have enough distance hanging over both sides of the differential to accept the U-bolts. And then we glue these in place, let it dry all the way, and then I'll drill 4 holes. And I use 2 types of wire. This is the wire I use for the I do not know what it is, guys, so I'm sorry. It's very, very small. It's smaller than 0.6 millimeter. So you get this at a craft store. It's firm, but yet it bends very easily. So you can really shape it. This is great for fuel lines. I guess is what we need to get to. Fuel lines, brake lines, and in this case, shackle bolts. Only on the leaf springs to the differential. Now, like in the front, we'll take a look at for the stabilizer brackets, I use a smaller wire. This is it right here. This is a 32 gauge. And if I compared this to this is just a fraction smaller than what this is, which would be pretty much true in the size of bolts. This is also very flexible and manipulative. I love the soft wire, but yet it's firm. It will hold its position once you bend it. You can be a Picasso with this stuff. You can really, square it, flatten it off, bend to your angles, and it'll stay. It doesn't want to pull back to its natural, coiled position from where it's been sitting for months or years in a coiled position. It stays the way you want it. It does curve a little bit, but once you get the pieces done, it's great. So along the way, we added other blocks, and these are painted black, and this is just to keep it tight against the frame rail. So if you guys noticed that when I was showing it before. And I only used one here, and then the actual block in the back that connects the soft line to the hard line. So you can see how well it stays. None of this is glued to anything. After it's bent, it stays, it keeps its shape. And as long as you take your measurements and you bend the right angles and you dry fit it, and once you got it where you want it and you put it in place, it stays. Unless you hung it on something and it bends it out of shape, then you have a problem. So I'll take 4 pieces of wire and I'll cut one shorter on one end than the other. That way, when I'm running it up over top of the leaf springs, I can put one side in the hole of the plate and then slide the other one in easier than being the same length. So to give you an example, if this was, and you can cut the stuff with scissors or your little snippers, it don't matter. So here's a piece of wire, and I would take something that's accordingly the size of the differential. In this case, we have a spare drive shaft that's a hair smaller, but it's close enough. And then I just wrap that around that to give it the U-bolt shape. Even though these rear U-bolts are square at the top. So we'll use something square that where it sits over top of the spring and the top bracket. But then I take, you can kind of see they're the same length, and I make one even shorter like that. That way when I slide this one in, this will go in first, and then I can manipulate this one and get it through the hole too. And then I just use a stouter pair of pliers and I tug on both of them to get it tight. Then I use a little drop of UV glue on the top of the shackle to hold it in place so it doesn't fall back out. Excuse me. You know, once I've done that, then comes the very technical part, and we'll take a look at that because it's already done in the front. Is, if you guys remember these, we ordered these a while back. I've used them on a couple projects now, and I thought, you know what? The biggest size on here is 1 millimeter. They go from 0.6 millimeter to 1 millimeter. And these things were like almost $20, which is, you know, a little high. But here's a little pre-warning. You will blow some of these out trying to drill them out. It's going to happen. But you got a zillion of them, so, you know, I think I needed, what, 4? I needed 8 of them in the front. I'll need 8 in the rear. And I'll probably burn up 10 to 12 of them till I get what I need. But it's just to be expected. So your next step is to gauge your wire, which would be the outer diameter of this stuff, to a drill bit. These little colored hardened micro drill bits, they break easy, but these are your best friend in modeling, especially if you do detail like I do. I will gauge it to this, and I can see that this drill bit's way bigger than the wire. Now, I already know which one is this one right here. Usually they say on it, and I can't read it. Maybe I can. I don't know. Hold on. 0.5. That's what it looks like. I could be wrong, but I just hold it up to the wire, and I don't want to see wire on either side of the drill bit. And if that's the case, then I know my drill bit is just big enough that once I drill a hole, this wire will go into it. So this is my drill bit that I will use on the plates here. 4 holes. And I clip the corners to be more representation. The rear ones are curved plates. They kind of saddle the differential. We're not worried about getting that look per se, but we have that on there. Now there is molded in detail of the shackle bolts already on here, but we'll be going over top of that, so the shiny bolts will be more visible than the black molded in bolt detail. But we'll drill the 4 holes, and then we'll slide our wires over top of the leaf springs this way, left to right, and then down into the shackles. And then we need to drill a hole. You can see where I've messed up some. If we can get it to focus. There you go. You can see where I've blown out a few. Getting top dead center is important, because once you get so far, it'll just snap off on your bit. And then you just hold it and then finish the drill process and kind of ream the hole out. You pull it off, and then the little stem that's on there, you just take your knife right up to the bottom of the bolt and, you know, lob it off there. I always put them on something white so I can see them, and out of knockoff distance. I call knockoff where my arm's getting away, and next thing I know, I've knocked off all the bolts I need, then I go back and do it all again. So you can see very well. I'm not perfect. But anyways, it's, you know, good eyes, a steady hand, the right tool for the job. I use that little tool I showed you before, that top dead center tool. It's a little reamer is what it is, but I've misplaced mine now. I found the bag, but I can't find the freaking tool. I just saw it a couple days ago, so I know it's right in here somewhere. I'll find it when I take this desk apart. But I've been using a dental tool. I mean, this thing is super pointy, sharp. And I just get center on there, and I put a little divot on it. You know, I work this around a little bit. And that gives a little spot for that drill bit to start. And then I go real slow, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I'll go forward a little bit, and back it out. until I get where it'll snap off on the bit, and then I finish it out and I lob it off, and I turned a bolt head into a nut. So, to give you an example, here's the front, and you can see the wire coming through. There's all the little nuts holding the U-bolts. Same way, we use the same size. See, you can see I've not glued these in place to keep them from moving yet. But represents U-bolts. This is the stabilizer bracket for the stabilizer shock, which Ernest is designing and making for all four wheels and for the stabilizer. So we made our brackets. We got our nut detail on there too, as well. And you know, the sad thing about this stuff's all painted on the real truck. So we'll paint all this detail, but it's there now. As where the kit didn't have it. It poorly molded in, but now we have it. And it's not 100% accurate, but it really looks the part. And yeah, I got this alignment of bolts off a little bit, but didn't notice it until it's too late. But you know, we're made, and you can see there's the little. I still got to drill a hole in that, and then a hole in the one that's on the idler arm, mainly for looks. But the rest of this is very accurate, and you can see our soft lines, and we got to paint those still. So we got basically all of our detail in. So now the only thing I'm waiting is for this to dry so I can drill the holes. I'll put the shackles in, get all the little nuts drilled out, and get them installed. And then we'll let it sit for a day or two. Everything get good and dry. And then we'll come back and we're going to touch up everything. You can see the e-brake lines that I ran. I used guitar strings. These are the ribbed ones, whatever cord that is. I can't remember. And we looked at pictures so we knew where they ran. We drilled the holes through the frame. We got everything ran like it's supposed to. And we just got to, because we touch it, and I've used acrylics so that it rubs off, and you just got to touch it up a little bit. It's not really noticeable once you touch it up, especially if you thin your paints down. You don't want to use thick paint because then it'll dry thick and it'll look really messy. So cleanliness is key when you're doing this stuff. There's nothing wrong with thinning paint down and having to put 4 or 5 coats on to get the coverage versus one big thick globby coat and be done. But because when that globby coat dries, it's going to be globby and it's going to look distorted and messy. So, you know, keep that in mind. So our e-brake, what spot of realism can we do from there? It's kind of just written in stone the way it is our floorboard. We drilled a hole where the e-brake cord would go up through and it would connect to the brake lever to turn the e-brakes on. So we drilled all the way through. And another example of the Zap-It glue, we put a dab on there, we smoothed it off, and once it's all painted, you're not going to see it on the inside. But underneath, it gives us a little slot to slide that cable into, and we'll glue it in place, and it'll look the part. Because this will all be visible underneath, so it's kind of key to have things ran where it would be on a real car or truck. So that being said, yes, she is a full-blown roller. We got all the little rivets detailed, painted, the hubs detailed, painted, the lug nuts, everything glued in place. The tires keyed up perfect. I just squared it all up. I use these because they're square and they're heavy. And I let it sit overnight, and you know, I use super glue, CA glue, and it dried 100% overnight. And you know, we got a nice rolling chassis now, and all of our details for the suspension, other than the shocks, are in. But we got time to wait on the shocks now. It's, you know, those are going to get made, and when they come in, I'll adjust them a little bit. I'll get them painted, and we'll get them installed, and voila, it'll all be done. So we went to our engine while we were waiting for some stuff to dry and said, well, let's get this together. I I had a 3D printed automatic transmission. One left. I did print some more, and out of the whole print, I think I printed like 10 or 12, and I think I got like 7 that are good. So I still have some kinks to work out with the printer before I can even get back to even printing normal stuff. But I put them in the stash up there, and even the ones that are deformed a little bit can be sanded down, and they'll do the part. But anyways, we got this one all painted up. We got it weathered. A transmission takes a little more wear and tear, and it's harder to get to clean off. So when it's up in there, the main things are seen. We'll chrome the bolts on the transpan. The transpan is, I believe, an aluminum pan, so it's ribbed and it looks the part. His headers are rusty. He always comments on those. Don't mind my rusty headers. I showed a picture or something before of them. That was before the final stage. If you're up here close and personal, you can see all the different shades of rust showing through. On camera, it appears as a brown. You can see a little bit of the black showing through. And now they look really close to the 1-to-1. It's going to snow here today, guys. It was 60 degrees yesterday, 61 to be exact, and now it's going to snow. I hate this place. Anyways, then we got our fuel pump chromed. I don't know if his is chromed or not, or if it even looks like this, but it was part of the kit engine, so we went with it. We will run our fuel line down to it. We got our oil filter in, and we got a decal on there. You can see. We got a starter. I don't know where the starter came from, but it fit perfect, so we ran with it, and it looks like a Ford starter. We drilled holes in the front of it, so we'll feed our positive negative wires in. We'll bring our negative wire up to here and ground it. Our positive wire will run up to a solenoid, and from the solenoid to the battery, like a Ford would have. Everything else is standard on this, so we'll use the rest of the kit to finish out the engine. He does have chrome valve covers, chrome oil pan. Like I said, I don't know what kind of carburetor he's running, but I can ask him and then see if I have one, and I'll put it on there. And we'll put our fuel filter on there. We'll run our vacuum lines. There are some electrical wires shown in the engine compartment, so we'll add that as much as possible. Washer fluid, overflow. Our heater hoses, radiator hoses. We already clipped off a piece for our radiator hose. We have that soft rubber hose. Remember, it's hollow. If that'll show up, I don't think it will, but there it goes. And then we got clamps. We use the photo etch clamps. And the best way to do those, guys, is once you get your little stem inside here, is put a little dot of CA glue on there. Kind of bend your clamp in the curve shape a little bit before you install it. And put that on there and let it cure all the way. I'll use the UV cure glue. It's just instant. And then slowly bend it around, put another little tiny drop, cure it. Keep going until you get that strap or clamp wrapped all the way around there, and then you'll have the real look of a hose clamp on your hose. And I do that before I install. So, I dry fit this, and then I get my little pegs inside here where they need to be, and then I'll dry fit it one more time, and it can shape whatever shape you need it. And then I know I'm golden, that it's going to fit where I need to. Then I can go ahead and add my clamps and have all that done. That way, all I got to do is put this in this hole, and this end, and this hole, and it's done. Easy peasy. We've got our battery photo etch, our terminal clamps, and all that. We also have the little clamps in here that'll go to the solenoid. I will scratch build the solenoid. I did it for Weed Whacker. A lot of people didn't see that little detail, but I just scratch built the starter solenoid on that truck as well. So I'll just replicate what I did. It's not hard. It's just using pieces of styrene and a couple of pieces of tiny brass rod, and I can slide these little clamps right over the brass rod, and it looks like it's the solenoid. So we got that set aside. We have our valve stems. We got to still glue in for the wheels. Here's those little radiator or hose clamps I was telling you about. You know, the longer one I use for the radiator hose. The shorter ones I use for the heater hoses or anything smaller. And I have an abundance of those. And then I always keep my fall off I talk about. These are all little pieces of vacuum line and stuff like that. Heater hoses. Because I may need a short heater hose or a short radiator hose. And I have it. So always keep your fall off. Label it and put it in a little baggie so you don't lose it. And then you can keep using it until it's so small it doesn't matter. Then you can throw it away. Now, last piece that we've been working on. He has blue wires. Now, this isn't the exact shade of blue, so it's not a big deal. But he did have blue wires. So we went with our own distributor. And just to show you guys, these are my pre-wired distributors. You know, they got the vacuum advance on there. I did go through the top and drill a little bit. And then these wires went right in. A little dabbed it down with super glue and put it in place, let it set. It cured overnight. We painted it to match his distributor. And we'll put our vacuum line in from here up to the carburetor when it's all done. And then we'll run our wires. You know, these wires bend and manipulate just like any others. These are just a hair bigger, which to me they look right, more right than the ones you get with a pre-wired. Now, Morgan's Automotive, you can see, here's one of his pre-wired distributors. It's a kit. You can order the cap in different colors, the wires in different colors, and then he always gives you a piece for the boot. I always save that little wire that comes out of there because it bends and manipulates very easy, and it's good to use for a fuel line, a little piece of brake line, whatever it is. So, balling on a budget, guys, I save and I use everything. Like, you know, when your mom puts your food on your plate, you eat everything on your plate. You don't get to say, I don't want that, I don't like that, I'm not going to eat that. You eat it. I bought this, I'm going to eat it. You know what I mean? And you can see the size of wire. It's a little smaller. You know, now in scale, to give you an example, this would be 1/25th scale. This would be 1/24th scale. There's not much difference in size, just a hair, which would represent the two scales. So using this back and forth on 1/24th or 1/25th, it really doesn't matter. There is beefier spark plug wires you can put on your vehicle, heavier jacket on them, those heat cord ones. So that's our story, and we're sticking to it. But our distributor fits right into the Mobius kit. Now, yes, we'll cut the stem down a little bit. That way it's closer to the intake. We've dry fitted this. We did remove a cross member that was on the suspension. Just because it was in the way and it wasn't needed. The real truck did not have it. And then you can see our engine sits right down on the key spot. Headers fit right in there. The cab does go over the engine's got to go in after the cab is on, but it all fits in there. Nothing's too tight. It's not going to cause any problems. I do have to lean the engine back a little bit. The drive shaft, it's over here somewhere, goes from here down to the transfer case, and that all fits in. We don't have any issues. Everything lined up. I could not be more happy with fitment and the way it's going. The only problems I've been having with this is my own, you know, from modifying and scratch building. It's not the way the kit was designed, but it's not stopping me from anything I'm going to be doing to this as far as build wise, install wise. And I'm going to show you. I'm putting it together now. Once and it's key to get this to do this for overall fitment issue when final assembly comes. You know, is your engine going to stick too high? as you can see. Now I don't have my firewall in, but the firewall gets painted the same color as the body, so, and the rest of it's all black. So it'll get painted when, you know, I put it in the paint booth for the final paint. And you can see our engine fits in there. No problems, no fitment issues. Lines up, sits right. That's a little cockeyed right now, but there we go. Better, much gooder. And you see height-wise, nothing sticks up past. Even with the air cleaner on it, we got plenty of clearance. The hood, I still got to heat the middle up and push it down to get it to line. I mean, it doesn't take much pressure at all to get it to, I mean, literally no pressure. And it lines up perfect. So we escaped warpage issues. Now, I know guys say that all Mobius kits have had this issue. Their older trucks, their first gens of releasing these things, were a lot better than the newer ones, such as the ramp truck, any of those. Now we'll put the bed on here. I gotta set it down. Now, believe it or not, guys, Mobius, this is something I've learned along the way. All their truck kits, these Ford lines, these F100s, they're all interchangeable. I mean, I know most of you know that already, but I mean, even converting from a long bed four-wheel drive to a short bed four-wheel drive, the modifications that need to take place are very minimal and are very easy to do without really kind of clunkying it up. But there she is, guys. Gotta be careful where I hold it. Wheel clearance, perfect. Front and back. Still has the factory lean. And that's because it's got a big V8 in it to, you know, you'd have to level it off. The real truck has a little bit of a lean too, so that's why I did it. You know, we talk about our leaf springs. What we did with our leaf springs was we heated them up and bent them slowly to get that radius that we needed. And then we remounted them to the frame. The rear ones are the front springs for the four-wheel drive. Or the front springs, I'm sorry. The front springs are the rear springs, or front springs, one of the two, for the four-wheel drive. And we did the same thing with that. We heated them up, curved them, and they, you know, we kept our blocks that we had in there, the little tube pegs, wherever. You guys remember, it's been a while. I cut these to length to give me my height, ride height, and I left those in there until I got the springs. I did one side at a time, that way I didn't lose my ride height. So it's kind of like a marker. And I apologize for this video being long, but you know, a lot to cover here. I got a lot done. I am super proud of this. Justin is out of his mind over it, and I wish. And I hope that he has me build him one, because my heart is really tugging just to give him this. But in the same fact, I absolutely love this build. This truck will go to Acme. I'm building this in segments for one reason and one reason only. That once I finish these little parts up here, my suspension is done. 100% done, other than the shocks. The shocks are just install, not modifying anything more for them to go in place. I quadruple check my measurements, so they'll be the same length as what's needed. The key marks are already where they need to be, front and rear. The only change is adding that, what should we call it, shock in the front. I'm going to have to heat that up a little bit. See, I just tack things, guys. This isn't permanent. I tack it so I can show you guys this kind of stuff. But the suspension's done. Now we'll get that back in, and we'll get that, let that sit overnight again. We'll glue it permanently. The other three are not permanent. I mean, they are permanent. This one is not. You know, it goes right back on. You guys can see. I noticed it was leaning, so apparently that's today's project was to, I'd already done the 3. This one I hadn't done yet, and I wanted to get the video out, so. But you can see, I mean, I love this truck. So it's going to Acme. So why do I say I'm doing it in stages? Well, the body is going to get some modifications too. And we'll just take part of the body off and show you. So on the real truck, he has chrome trim up around the wheel wells. Okay. So I got to add that. And how do we add that? We're using 0 or 0.010 by 0.020 styrene strips. Okay. This is what you do if you add chrome trim to a car. This is the size you'd want. Evergreen. Stuff's super cheap. Couple bucks. And it goes a long way. I looked at it, I was like, oh crap, I only got one piece. I'm going to have to order some. And then I turn around and I got a ton in the front. But we're going to add that to the surface of each wheel well. Excuse me. On the cab and the bed. So they can be chromed. Inside, I don't know if you can see this or not. Inside this chrome trim around the Ford emblem here, it's black in the center. It's black in the center of the letters and chrome around the outside of the letters, and then, you know, bed color, body color, chrome around the handle. So we're going to have a lot of fine little detail masking. So I say, if this goes wrong, I'm going to have to strip it all down and redo it. But I'm dedicated to this, to same as if I was building it for Justin, that it's got to be perfect or as close to perfect as possible, so I can take this Acme. Now, is it a show winner? I don't know. I honestly don't know. You never know. It's a crowd or a fan choice. It's you guys showing up to the show, looking at all the models, putting your vote in for your favorites. You guys want to see this win as much as I would like to see it win. You guys got to show up to the show. You got to put your vote in, and maybe Shorty will get her glory that she's going to deserve, because, you know, the paint is one thing. It's beautiful paint, but it's it's all the other stuff. Hold on a second, guys. Hello? Oh, they don't want to talk to me. The paint is great, and there's very minimal decals. We have all the correct emblems. Give you an example. Ernest is making the emblem for the front of this isn't the grill that goes on the truck. We're still waiting on it. Good news is I've been seeing people post it, and I've seen model roundup post that they're getting the kits in, so hopefully in the next week or so I'll get my kits in, which has got the 67 grill. I'll still have to modify it to put the Ranger emblem in the center and groove it out and put red paint in the center groove for that. Now, down the sides of the body, this center, the bump out, that's why it's called a bump side Ford, that's a chrome trim with black around the edging. Now, that is there. Again, you can kind of out towards the back here see the difference in layers. So that'll get masked off and painted chrome, and then I'm going to have to come back and keep a tiny little gap between the chrome and the painted area and mask off, and then come back and do black all around the chrome. So I'm going to trim out around the chrome black. On his truck, it's just vertical right here that's black, and vertical here black, so that's what we'll do. The rest of this trim will be chrome around the handle. The words will be chrome, and then we'll come into the center of each one, and we'll make the black. Oop, we just lost our tire again. Good thing I looked too. See, sometimes it's fortunate that you drop something. There's my other vacuum line. I just clipped off a piece that I'll need. This is completely round rubber. They use it for bead jewelry, but it works great in our hobby for vacuum lines. I had it laying there. Apparently, I knocked it off. So we will take our time. And then same way on, take this off now, around the windshield. This is a rubber gasket that keeps that windshield in, or rear window. We're going to have to put a piece of that chrome trim all the way around on the surface because there's chrome there too. The windshield has the molded in. It's also black with chrome in the center. So we're going to be very delicate. A lot of masking. I have liquid mask now, so I'm going to have to be very genuine. If I make a mistake, it's starting all over. And it's going to be a shame because I'm already going to have the body painted. So, and it's very tiny detail. But we're going to try it. And if I see that I can't get that black around there, we'll just put the chrome down the center and we'll have to call it good. There is black in the grooves on the rocker panel detail. So, you know, we'll represent that. Like I said, the vertical, you know, there's chrome around the tail lights. I don't know I haven't got them out yet to see what the detail is on those. If it's got a chrome piece or if it's just the red lens that goes in here. I can look at the box art and see. Looks like there is a chrome piece. So yeah, we're golding there. This one shows a chrome trim going across the back here, but it does not have it on here. So maybe that's a separate piece of chrome you got to put on. I don't know. The only other thing I got to kind of modify is the rear step bumper is diamond plated. The step bumper that I have for this truck. What did we do with it? Oh, there it is. As you can see, it's not diamond plated. It's smooth. So I've got another step bumper. I put out a word on Instagram if anybody had a scrap piece of diamond plating, 1/25th scale, like 3 inches long by 1 inch wide. I'd trade you for it, give you a couple bucks, whatever. You know, I'm not going to pay $7 or $8 for a little piece of styrene. I'll go a different route before I do that. But you know, if you got a little piece of diamond plating and you want to trade for something or something else you need, I'll trade you up for that diamond plating. That way I can just cut it to fit what I need for the top of the bumper. And there's 2 side steps underneath each door that's got a little piece of diamond plating on it. I got to scratch build those too. So I'm going to get off here. I got to get those made today. That way it does finish up the frame. Get these holes drilled, get the shackles in, and get all this painted. So that way I can put the chassis to the side because we know we're done with it. The only thing we got to come back and do is marry the transmission and drive shaft in once we go to put the cab on. And that'll be pretty much one of the last things we do. Then there'll be some final connections. Our radiator hoses, our heater hoses, and then most of the engine detail will already be on the engine before I install it. The wiring will be in here. Battery's just sitting in place. I want to make sure it fit. I got to detail that up. We have a wiring harness that runs across the back of the firewall, down the driver's side, fender flare, and on the passenger side. So we're going to get that wiring harnesses in just to represent. And like I said, the grill is not permanent. We just got it in there for aesthetics right now. So we have something to look at. I've got a few of these grills now. And there we go. I'll trade this grill for pieces of diamond plating if anybody's got it. Or you need this grill. Anything. You just give me a call. Or hit that email down there before. Or down below. My email is always down below, guys. It's one surefire way to get a hold of me. I check my emails about 4 times a day. Every day. Not just because of the hobby, but for other things. So I'm always aware. If I don't respond back immediately, it's just that time of day. I haven't looked at them yet. But let me know if you got a little scrap piece of diamond plating you want to get rid of, or trade for, whatever, or if you want a couple bucks for it, whatever it may be. I do need it desperately. I don't want to not use this and have one made because this is already perfect. It fits up. It's keyed to fit perfect. I just got to add that diamond plating look to the top of the steps here. and the little side steps I got to scratch build. So, that in mind, thank you to all my past, present, and future subscribers. I hope you're enjoying this build as much as I am, because I mean, I truly am. And, you know, you get that mindset when you're into a build, how well it's going. Oh, the disaster is around the corner. Well, yeah, that's why I'm doing it in stages, because I figure my biggest problem is going to come when it comes to getting all this really fine detail put in there. We will probably use craft paint, because I can wipe it off to prevent having to repaint the whole body. So we will probably we will paint and clear coat, do our wet sanding and our polishing, and then we come back and we'll start doing our technical, little tedious outlining of black on things. Our piece will be already on here, so we'll just have to chrome it. We'll probably mask around it, and we'll I don't know if I'll mask the whole body and airbrush the all clad, or if we'll use the Molotow. I don't know yet, but today's job is to get the trim on here on both pieces that we got to add. Get our step bumpers made and get our rear shackles on, and that's pretty much all I have time for today. I got stuff to do tomorrow. Sunday I'll be in the shop all day. Back on this. I also got to get the villain painted today too, and we'll take a look at her next week, where we're at, because once I get her final painted, then it's really starting to add the final touches to the body, the interior final assembly on that. That's going to go really fast. The only thing that'll slow me down is getting all the LEDs ran, and that's really not slowing me down for a day. You know, maybe 2 days to run the LEDs and make sure everything's working and blah, blah, blah. And you guys will get to see that. How do you do that? You might ask, how am I going to? You hit that little bell notification. You'll know when my videos come out. My videos are always like this, guys. It's just talk, talk, talk. And you get to see. So it's not just talk. But I'm not one of these guys that film me building and doing all this stuff. But if there's something you see that you would like further, detailed on, you just gotta let me know. Send me an email, and I'll do a separate little video, more in depth, not me rambling, of the process it takes to do this and how I did it and to achieve that look. And if not, then you just don't care. So simple. But I've been watching a lot of people's videos, old Tom's, some of Fred Henry's, Brian Gigmos, as always. Left Coast Models, watching his progress on the one he won for me, and a lot of just diorama stuff. I'm really into the minis right now, so I've been watching a lot of painting techniques, which help on this stuff too. And I've come to the conclusion that I'm going to build a model car. Don't know yet which one. I'm going to build it in the representation of a mini. So you know how minis look cartoonish. The way they paint it is black, and then they hit it at an angle with your midtones, which would be gray primer, and light tones. I'm going to do that to a car, and then I'm going to use these speed paints and contrast paints to paint the vehicle. That way it'll be like it's sitting out in the sun. The dark areas will be darker, the lighter areas will be lighter. Everything will look like it was sitting out in the sun when it's not. So we're going to try that. What do we got to lose? It's just a model. No big deal. So, please, guys, flood the comments. You guys have been here lately really good about flooding these comments. Flood them even more. Spread the word. Share the video. I know Justin's liking this. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Again, anybody that's got a little scrap piece of diamond plating, 3 inches by 1 inch, that'll give me enough to do that bumper and the 2 little side steps, and I'll have a little bit left over for maybe a future project. Or if I build his again, I'll need it for the other one. But, to give you an example, a 3-inch piece long, 3 inches long by 1 inch wide, I'm only using in scale roughly a light 5/16 wide by 3 inches long. So it's got to be minimal 3 inches long. But that'll give me enough to do this in the future, maybe another one, and the side steps now, and then the side steps in the future. So just let me know, guys. You guys need stuff like styrene, glue, paint, Hobby Nut Models. He's always down there below. Ryan Jones, I got an email today. We got more wheels on the way. So when they come in, we'll do a video on that. We'll take them out. We'll look at them, talk about them. I think a couple of them already I know I've got plans for and ideas for. We're getting close. Not real close, but we're getting close where we can do another teaser pleaser giveaway. That's the little giveaways I do in between the bigger giveaways. 1,500 is the big giveaway. So around, we got a couple hundred to go, and then we can do a teaser pleaser. So get the word spread, guys. I apologize that the video is long, but this is a whole week's worth of work that we're talking about in, an hour-long video. So sit back, get some popcorn, a cup of coffee, your favorite soda, whatever it may be, alcohol beverage. Vice Grip Garage says, wet the back neck. Get your model out, work on it while you watch this. Anything you want to know about how I did it, what I used, just contact me. I'll be glad to share. I don't withhold info. This stuff came from Japan. It's at I can look it up. It's a hobby store online. They always advertise on Instagram and Facebook. But you guys get you some of these. They have the nut detail with the bolt sticking out of it already. But I was like, well, if I can drill these out, I get the nut and I can slide it over the wire, and I get the same look for, saving $40 buying 2 sets of them. But I am going to buy them. I just haven't gone back and got them yet. Again, that's what they look like. All the sizes right there, 0.6 up to 1 millimeter. There is 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 1 millimeter. It's right there on the tree. It tells you at the top what they are, what this section is, this section, so on and so forth. And these are great if you're wanting to add rivets to airplanes or tanks or even to a rat rod. These are great little things. You clip them off, glue it in spot, paint them. You get that third dimension of it. And any little leftover pieces, you just I got one down in here. It's not rattling right now. Maybe I dropped it out. But, put your ones that fall off down inside here or in a Ziploc baggie. These come in a little Ziploc baggie, so you can put them down in there to preserve them so you don't lose them. So, yeah, guys. I was going to do this today, but it's probably going to be Sunday when I do this. The gearbox, I do have to scratch build some components to go from this down to the knuckle for the steering apparatus, so we want to put that detail in there. So we got to work on that, and then the suspension will be done. So I totally forgot about that until I saw this out of the corner of my eye. It was in the bed to remind me, but then I knocked it out. So that's it, guys. Again, I'm rambling. We're done rambling. Thank you to everybody again. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification. We do have goals we're trying to climb. We're trying to build the channel. We're not a glitzy glam type channel. We're a model talk, explanation, and show. That's the best way to present what I do. There's other guys out there that film what they do as they're doing it. And that's not me. I've tried it, and it's just so hard to do, and I feel uncomfortable doing it, so it's better for me to do it and then show you type thing. So I hope you guys understand. Hopefully we'll get our editor back here soon to really amp these videos up and take out a lot of my rambling. So you guys have a great weekend. Oh, yeah, here's what I was talking about. This is the company, Scale Pro Shop, dead center. This thing's like $5, $6. It's the best little thing you can get for this tiny little stuff. You put it on the top there and you twist it back and forth, and then your drill bit sits right in that saddle, and you drill perfectly. It won't, like I did, go off center and blow out a bolt head or anything like that. You'll have less waste. So pick you up one of these. I don't get nothing from it, but it's a great little tool to have in your arsenal. Matter of fact, I'd pick up 3 of them. Put one up someplace safe. Spread the other 2 out amongst your benches or bench. In with your drill bits. That way you know where it's at. Unlike me, where you lose it. And I only have one. Oh. Quick pro trip, guys. We're already we're over budget. Everybody knows what these are. Little magic erasers. Believe it or not, guys, this is sandpaper. Hear it? I can go over this with my body. When I'm done sanding, and I think I'm all done, I can take this and I can go over top of everything. This is a little lower than 12,000 just by the texture. This is probably around, this might be like 900 grit. It's very fine. It's not going to hurt your finish. But after you're done with all your sanding, you think you're done, get one of these things and come back over everything. Just like you see, I'm sitting here doing it to the real body. And then come back and feel. And you'll be blown away. You can see the dust from it sanding. It's actually sanding. There's residue on the sponge. And this thing lasts forever. You know, you pick this up for a few bucks at the dollar store. And just everything. It's going to take the final little crap out of your primer job or your paint job and make it ready for your final finish. I mean, it's as smooth as glass. Just from that little bit of rubbing, guys. So that's it. That's my pro tip. Dry erasers, they are your friend in the hobby. You can cut them up into tiny little pieces. Use the whole block like I do. It concurs, to the shapes and conforms to the shapes. And just before you go to put your primer on, or after you're done primering and you get ready to go to paint, just go over the whole body with this thing. You're not hurting nothing at all. I wouldn't tell you to do it if I wouldn't do it myself. Because I go from this to paint, guys. I'm not. And just a little. And I mean, now that's as smooth as glass. And I've gotten up on this really close under scrutiny light. See if we can get there. Look, there's no. You can see the light sand marks, but that ain't going to show up into your paint. Trust me, it's not going to. And I know the villain was sanded with this. And that paint is as smooth as glass. I'm putting a couple more coats on because I didn't get paint everywhere I was supposed to. But you just throw it in your little toolbox or your drawer. You got it. And just remember, you get it out. And it won't even, I'm sitting here really on the edge, pushing hard. It won't go through the primer. All you're doing is really sanding the surface of the primer. So, again, there you can see. Primer. Pro tip. $3 tool. This is your final stage in any sanding you do, whether it's your clear coat or your primer going into paint. Give it a try. Let me know what you think. It's Rusty Rotor. I'm out.